Hello again, and welcome to the Three Blind Mice Show. We have another special show today. We have Ryan Bowers, a longtime local official, college now, and a lot of state games he's worked. We're down one mouse today for a little bit. He had a doctor's appointment. He did have a health emergency a couple of days ago, and he's trying to get all that worked out. So, and Don also and his wife had a little health scare. So, it's hell getting old, they say. So
it is exactly.
So Don, having a good time there in South Carolina. It looks like the weather's good. Weather's great here too.
Yeah, I see it's great up there by you guys. We had a wonderful day. Just a nice fall day, a little warmer than normal. Like we hit 80, but it's normally about 70 here. And this would normally be the last week of the football season here, but with the teams in the upstate, which is the 1/3 of South Carolina that kind of bumps up against North Carolina, that's called the upstate. A lot of damage when the first hurricane came up this way.
Yeah.
Horrible damage in North Carolina, but a lot down here that some schools lost 2 games. And so what they actually did is they added a midweek game. So most of these schools around here played last Friday night. Not last Friday. They played a week ago Friday night, and then last week Tuesday night, and then instead of Friday, they moved that game to Saturday.
Wow.
So the 2 county teams did that, and really the three good teams in this area all did that, and they're off now. This is the bye week, but next week they're going to play another week that was lost, and that'll be a big game here in town because they play Daniel High School, and that's where all the Clemson high school kids go to school there. It's out in the country. A couple other small communities join there, but they've got a real laundry list of big time football players, pro players that went to Daniel. So it's a big rivalry.
Well, until Jimmy gets here, we're going to go ahead and bring on Ryan. Now, Ryan is a long time local official. He kind of came up under our tutelage a little bit, and he's good despite that. And he did work with me and Don quite a bit. I know he's came to our camps. I know he's working college, and he's just an incredible young man. He's came a really long way, and he's brought the Bay Area Officials Association into the limelight. So let's welcome Ryan Bowers. Hey, Ryan.
There he is. Hey.
Hey guys, how we doing? Thanks.
We're doing okay. We're just we just said you came up under our tutelage, and you're succeeding despite that. So
I learned
that's pretty good.
Habits. Only the good habits from you guys, not the bad
ones. So and you know where all the flickers are, right?
That boy. But it's exciting to see what you have done and some of the young guys in our association. Boy, you've really climbed the ladder. I know you've really worked hard. I'm sure I speak for the other guys when I'm saying that we're extremely proud of you. And it's just kind of it's an honor to see that you guys have moved the needle so far in the association and all the work you guys put in. It's very great. It's very honorable.
Yeah, and you talk basketball, the 3 amigos that all seem to rise at the same time. Besides Ryan, is Kurt Leber and Charlie Rudnauer. And, they were Charlie was just like Brad Huntley was when he was starting football. When we ran that clinic in Norwalk, 2 or 3 years, he stayed both sessions. Anything he could do to help, he was all in. And it was kind of fun to hear Brad talk about that last show. And these guys, Ryan works his tail off, getting better at basketball. Yeah, and it shows. I mean, I'm saying that as if it were 7 years ago and I was still back there, but he's grown even more in that time.
Oh, absolutely. He's really brought it a long way, and It's kind of amazing, really.
Well, you
It
guys,
really
you guys,
is.
you guys paved the way for me. And one thing that when I first started, you showed the importance of also staying humble and doing, being able to promote yourself, not just at the state level, but also be able to help out at the local level. You always showed me the importance of the association. And I really try to take pride in that, and never really wanted to forget kind of where I came from, and and that's why I love being able to be so involved with the Bay Area Officials Association. To be able to do my part and help mentor people like I was mentored by both you guys coming up through the rankings. I want to be
Sure.
able to pass that on to the next generation, just like you guys did. So
Yeah, that's really what it's all about, especially an association the size of ours. I mean, you get those big mega groups in Cleveland, and it can get cliquish. I mean, it just does because there's so many people there.
Sure.
But our group, I don't think there's any. There's very limited jealousy on when people do well and other people don't. It's not always the indicator of you're that much better official than the guy that doesn't get noticed as much. And as far as important officials, the people that I know, Sticks Joffrey is one of those guys, been around since I started, and he's still around, and he doesn't do much more than junior high and freshman games, and he's darn good at it. And those kids they get beginners, and there's mistakes made, and it can be ugly, but I suppose when people walk in the gym and see Sticks and one of his partners there, that they just feel good about what's going to happen for their kids at that younger age. So,
yeah.
Well, hey, we have Jimmy with us now, so hang on. I'm going to bring him on, and I got a statement about the mistakes thing. Hang on a second. Hey, Jimmy.
hey,
What's up? What's up?
Hey Jim, great to
But
see you.
Hi, say Ryan.
it's funny that you say that. How we're saying it. Where that's good. Where we were talking about mistakes. Heck, they make mistakes at every level. We've been seeing it at the collegiate level. We've seen it at the pro levels. I mean, I think that they do the best they can, but boy, oh boy. And you know what cracks me up is they go to these films, and they go, well, we're gonna review it, and they review it and they still get it wrong, and it's like, wow, okay. We gotta do a little better than this. So, but it's funny because I've told this story several times on the show where in 35 years I never called a perfect game, like ever. And that's one of my jokes with coaches. When they go, hey, you missed that, you missed it. I'm like, crap, there goes the perfect game again. So and that's kind of how it is. I mean, but when you have video help, you're supposed to get help from those guys,
Right.
and assume that they're helping you. But it's just funny. It's just funny how it works out. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, Don, you got some questions for us?
Yeah. First of all, besides Ryan's football and basketball official at multiple levels, he's also secretary of the Bay Area Association, and a lot of responsibility, some extra meetings you have to attend. I suppose a lot of it's online, a lot of book work you got to keep. But I mean, you wear a lot of hats, man.
Right, you sure do.
Let's look back when you first got the itch and recall a little bit about when you started and maybe who taught the class, if you were involved in a class and things like that.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, I got started, from the basketball side of things, 2001, and my instructor was Greg Gartinas, and
Sorry about that.
at the time. Yep, absolutely.
Right.
So like I said, Greg was my teacher, and kind of came up underneath him. But when it came to the association, I'm not sure what positions you guys held at the time, but I know that Don, you're heavily involved. I know Rick, you're heavily involved, and then Jim, you're heavily involved. You guys almost were like the A team when it came to doing those the JV games, and us just coming and observing, coming afterwards. You guys doing the varsity game and us doing the JV game afterwards. So I guess going back to your question, when I got the first itch of doing it, I think it was about 2009, 2010, whatever. I had an opportunity to, Greg had just passed on the basketball instructors class onto Mark Sisson. And Mark was going to take it from there on out. And I said, you know what? I said, can I just, help with the class? I was like, I'm going to learn more, get myself in the books as an instructor. Well, his stint, unfortunately, due to, different circumstances or whatever, did not last very long. So it kind of was then passed along to me. And I kind of was just the person being coming on there trying to be the helper. So I said, oh, shoot, I need to learn, not only the rules, but how to teach the class. So I reached out also at the time then to a younger official like myself that was coming up through the ranks, Kurt Lever. And I said, hey, we were starting to move into the varsity side of things. And I said, can you help me, teach the class? I said, it's going to be a learning experience for both of us. That first year, neither one of us were licensed instructors. Greg Bartimus was still the instructor, and he put everything in for us, but we taught the class. Then after that, the next year, we both became instructors, and we were instructors, after that. And then I moved on to, I think after that, I moved on to a few years later, still teaching the class and being the mechanics, in interpreter.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was right after, Don, you were the rules, and it was right after you handed that off to Tom Prieston. And then Tom Prieston took rules, and then I took the mechanics. So then I kind of, helped with that for a little while. And I was a mechanics interpreter up until about 2 years ago when Greg Bartimus was the secretary, and he decided to step down. And they were looking for a secretary, and I think it was at the right time. I had the progression. I knew the association pretty well, and I took over then, as secretary, and then gave the mechanics up at that time. So yeah, I'm currently secretary right now, and there's a lot that has to do with the secretary. There really is. Being a joint association for football and basketball, we have about 115 members. So especially with the new system we have a new system called Dragonfly, and we're, as secretaries, learning as we go. So sometimes, normally as a secretary, when it was with OSHA or MyOSHA, you would know probably just as much or more than every other official, and you'd be able to fill them in. Right now, sometimes I don't know as much as the officials, so it's a learning curve for us. But I think slowly but surely I'm getting it, and then I'm able to then give the information to the rest of the association to where then they're getting it as well too. So I guess that's kind of the progression of when I started and where I'm at now.
When did you start seeing you're on the road to success when you start getting more varsity games and JV games in a year? That's kind of a progression point. But you also went beyond that, and we're doing really well in the postseason, getting off to the regionals and the Final Four. And any milestone or anything, when did your season start going longer? Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. So I think I got my first varsity game in 2006, I only got one varsity game. It was one of those kind of things to where I was a JV official and there was a mix up and the varsity official didn't show up.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, come on, Ryan, you're doing it. So I had one game in 2006. 2007, I think I had girls varsity and then boys JV. And then in 2008, I was able to get both boys varsity and girls varsity. But I guess the road to getting I was a late bloomer. The road to going and having a long season really didn't start until I would say I was doing varsity at least for 6-7 years down the road. I mean, I started my first state game was in 2016. Well, I had a girls state game in 2016, but before that even happened, 2015 back, the farthest I went was a sectional final girls game. So I made a jump from a sectional final girls all the way to state in 1 year, which I think I don't know if I got lucky or I got seen at the right time or whatever. So my progression didn't start until later on. I thought I kind of was a late bloomer there. And then after that, I was able to, stay kind of at that level, which I was very, very blessed and lucky to be able to stay at that level.
Well, I can remember one of the last clinics that I was involved with, because I took a couple off before I left to make sure that somebody else was able to do it, to organize it. But we had Danny Morris come up and visit the afternoon session, and I had tried for, I always made him aware of it, but he always had something else going on. And so when he came, when we got to the afternoon session, which was the more accomplished officials, we had shootout, the 15, 18-minute games that those guys were working, where it was really competitive. And Denny and I sat a couple of chairs down at the high school back behind the end line. And, I was sure to point out you and Kurt and Charlie. And I said, these guys are really good, and he asked me a few more questions because he liked what he saw. Now he's 2 hours away from us. And he has a lot to do with assignments, and he's got a league over there he assigned for. So I think I told one of you guys, if he calls you to work in his league, go, because that's the guy that really is able to flip some switches. And if you go over there, work for him, so he sees what his coaches and the coaches that were his friends over there, get a little bit of local knowledge of how you guys operate. I think that probably was the big boost. But I knew it would have helped, but we just couldn't get him. Now we had Kenny Myers, who's a football guy, and assigned basketball too up in the Toledo area. He came, and he just couldn't believe what a good thing we had going there and how it was helping people. All he learned about basketball officiating, but he doesn't make basketball decisions. So, getting you guys there and making sure that Denny knows that there's some solid bodies working the games down our way was big. I was really pleased to see that they finally found that out.
And that's a great point there, Don. Yeah, I mean, I think what happened too is you brought Danny down to the Bay Area tournament, which at the time, we talk about shootouts. I mean, that was the best shootout around the area, especially when we had it going on 2 days. I mean, you had all the best teams there. It was super, super, super competitive. I mean, I remember, when it was in its heyday and it was hitting really, really good, if you got to officiate on that second day on the afternoon session, you were a great official. I mean, there wasn't just putting you on there because it worked out with your schedule. You had to earn that opportunity because the coaches, that was during, the Upper Sandusky days when Diebler was there, and just all the great teams. I mean, it was intense. It was so intense. So to be able to be put in that situation, I mean, that was a tournament-like atmosphere. Those were tournament-like games.
Yeah, that was a lot. That was a lot of fun, and too bad you can't get something like that every year. but the state changed some rules as far as how many days teams can practice with a coach during the summer. And it was just, it kind of changed the way things worked as far as having those shootouts. But boy, it was a good place. And and we would talk with the morning, some of the morning clinicians about who'd you see that we should try to get, that you want to kind of try to convince to hang around a little bit because I want to see them work in some of these games. And I usually sent something out there. There's some assigners that would always want a list of who was there, and I'd always mark, who I thought that they need to know about because they got a future ahead of them, and the future's probably about to hit. So
There we go.
yeah.
So,
Very few of them ever came though, but they always wanted the list.
Yep.
So,
Hey, Jimmy, you got something you want to ask Ryan?
Where's the best place we ever took you to eat after the game?
Oh man, well, let me think. There were many places. But you would always get food at St. Wendelin for some reason. That's just the one thing that sticks out in my head. The old St. Wendelin gym, you would always get food there.
Well, like they said, they always take you to the locker room and they'd say, if you need something, let us know. Well, my two partners never would talk it up. But hey, I said I went down there the one year, and when I walked in, I could smell barbecue outside. So I said something to Nadine, and we're doing that because the people with their kids and stuff were doing soup and sandwiches, and then I said that'd go good after the game. And for some odd reason, once it was after the game, and what had happened too, I'd go down always by cake raffle, and I told Nadine, I says, if one of us wins this, we're going to have to get the cafeteria lady involved. She says, what do you mean? I said, I'm about you, but I like milk with my cake. And sure as shit, she wins it at halftime. And we go, and it's like, go up to the locker room after the game, and damn, right there, a sandwich for me, one for my partner, Dale Pennington, his dad, and there we go. So...
It's kind of funny that you mentioned cake because, in this fabulous book we wrote, there's a great story about cake.
Right.
Isn't that right, Don?
Well, there's more than one actually, but there's a great one down at New Regal. That's the best one. But there's also kind of a little running feud, prank feud between Jimmy and when we went with him over to Fremont, and the Fremont guys as far as pranking each other with gifts and stuff in the locker room. And Jimmy got them back when they went over to St. Paul, and there was something else for us the next time we went to Fremont, and we met those guys at the Timeout Lounge over there, a long time sports hut type of place. And we just had the best time.
I think the best thing with you guys, and I don't remember when this was. I don't know if this was after maybe one of the shootouts, Bay Area shootouts, or if it was after a game. But we met at Bluto's. We all met at Bluto's, and you guys got the coaches to pay for us.
Well, yeah, of course.
Official the coaches.
You can do that with the local guys. We don't work for them very often.
Hey, there was a time when a priest actually paid for us. Isn't that right, Jimmy?
Yeah. Brother Tony. Having a buck.
Brother Tony.
Yeah, so
we met with the Fremont guys. We were down at BW3 down in Ontario, and we had a couple of old timers with us, and we just having a great time there. Ate a lot of wings, drank a lot of let's see, hoppy rehydration drinks. Let's put it that way. And Tony said, "Well, I got to do 6:00 mass tomorrow. I'm going to take off a little early here, guys. It's good to be with you and stuff." So he left. About 20 minutes later, we're getting ready to pack up and go, and we asked for the check, and the lady brought it over and said, "We owe you more than this." She goes, no, the gentleman that got up about 20 minutes ago gave us $100 towards the bill.
That's pretty
And
cool, right?
he was the pastor at Mansfield St. Pete's, which is, were we at St. Pete's that night? Or were we
Yes.
somebody else down there?
Yeah.
Tony
No, he
Yeah,
was
we're
St.
at
Pete's.
Oh
Pete's.
yeah. That's the Paul Pelham Vanderpool.
Yeah, that was
So, yeah.
that was when we were going to get Paul Pelham kicked out of the gym that night for using abusive language in the crowd.
Yeah. That was another prank that's in the book. No, in the book.
Another one in the book.
Yeah.
That book.
Well, hey, how about you?
Yeah.
How about your advancement to the college ranks? When did that come along, and what? How did that happen?
Sure, absolutely. So it started going to camps. I think what happened, honestly, Don, was you brought Diane Place a couple times to a couple of the shootouts.
Yeah.
And we were looked at there, and I had then decided to go to her camp. And I went to her camp, I think the first year, and I didn't get in. And then the next year, I went to her camp, but then I went to Bill X camp too. She was the women's and he was the men's.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how it went down exactly, but I think I was picked up by both basically, and I had to make a decision, and I decided to go on the men's route. So I worked for I started working for Bill, then in the lead officiating, and kind of went that direction. And so that's kind of but it was spurred on by, I would have never had that opportunity if I hadn't seen Diane at a shootout, and she was there observing, and officiating in college is just at a higher level. It's so much at a higher level than even high school. And I was getting to where I was pretty good. I thought I probably was better than I was,
We all do.
and you go to a college camp, and whoa, everybody's good. Everybody, you think you look good in your uniform, you think you do a good job, you make good calls, your signals are great. Everyone's got the same calls. Everyone looks the same. Everyone's slim, trim, whatever. So you really just have to, so you really, with college camps, the more experience you have, the more comfortable you get as well too, because it can be a little bit overwhelming the first couple ones you go to, until you just say, listen, I'm here, I know my abilities, I know what kind of official I am. I'm just going to go out here and officiate just like I do anywhere else. But I think that was maybe the first, where I got the college experience from it. On the football side, I was a little bit later on the football side. Football side's a little bit different. I started going to college meetings on the football side of things, and you go to some college meetings, and then you have to do college JV games. You get an opportunity to be able to do college JV games, and then once you do a couple of those college JV games, your name gets out there, and then there are more of like I wouldn't call it a camp. There are camps in football, but more of maybe like a seminar or a day thing, to where you're there, and you're going over different rules. You're going over different positions and strategies, what position you're in and everything as well too. And then you get looked at there, and you might go to a camp here or there, but it's more classroom work and being in the book when it comes to the getting into the football meetings. And I was able to then get picked up on the football side from Andy Path in the NCAC.
Oh, yeah.
So I started in the NCAC in football, and I progressed through that, and then it became a consortium for the NCAC, the OAC, which it is now, and I just moved over last year actually to the tri-state conference, which includes the GMAC Division II schools, and then the Mountain East, which are Division II schools, and then the PAC Pennsylvania area, which is Division III schools. So that's the conference that I'm in now for college football. And I guess that was kind of the transition that I kind of went through, to the college ranks.
Well, we kind of got the story of how you advanced, but the thing that I think we were all interested in will be the best part of this is after we push the book a little bit here, we're going to ask you about how you maintain your sanity when you get to the high school playoffs, the end of the college season going back to back, the beginning of college basketball season almost right on top of it, and then high school basketball starting. And there's so much going on from this week when high school football starts in Ohio, has your playoff start. And we're going to ask you, we want to know a little bit how you keep yourself sharp mentally on the rules differences and stuff. But first, Rick, you got a real valuable piece of merchandise.
There you go. It's an artifact.
Yeah, that thing just went funny in the.
There we go. We're back.
Yeah, there it is.
We're back.
Official Tales, our book. So a couple of stories we already got on to tonight are in there, but it's just chock full of fun things that we had done before games, during games, on the drive to the games, afterwards when we meet up with other officials and stuff. It's kind of how do you keep your sanity doing that for so long? And it's having good friends elsewhere. And it's just you can sit down and talk a little bit what happened at the games. But the more you do that, it's how's things going at home and all that kind of stuff. So it's the part you don't see. We don't wear the striped shirts to do all that, but there's a lot of dialogue in the book about stuff that happens before you put the shirts on. So it's a fun book that we wrote, and by gosh, there's more stories that. While we were writing, we were trying to think back to stories. We'd have a brainstorm. Do you remember this? Yeah. How about this? Yeah, and then I also had this. But since we're done, since we sent the printer, there's a lot of other things that I happen to think of too. And so there's not going to be another book, but on the podcast when we have story time, that's when we get a chance to unload some of that other stuff. That book's available on Amazon, and it's also available downtown Norwalk at the Common Good Collective right on West Main Street. It's a half a block away from the county courthouse, and it's a great store. It's got our book, but they've got all kinds of Huron County memorabilia in there. There's lots of the local crafters that make stuff in there. As you get towards Christmas time, it's a great stop for that unusual gift for about anybody. If you need it for a grandchild or if you need it for a grandparent, it's a great place to stop to find the unique stuff, and you get that great book right up at the counter. So it's out there also on Amazon. If you are not in the area, if you listen out of the area, go to Amazon and you get that search bar at the top. Easiest way to do it, least amount of typing, Rick Hall books. And it'll come up. You can use my name, you can use Borges' name, or just write Official Tale Book, and it'll pop up there for you.
And just remember, 2 out of the 3 of us are actually telling the truth.
Yeah.
There's one that's not.
All 3 of us give our view of the same story. So the guys that write a little bit above things tonight, those are the guys. Those 2 of the 3 are the ones that tell it.
Believe me. My brother was a priest, so I wouldn't lie.
You were.
I'm just saying.
Get a confession and get rid of it. Come on, we know how
right.
this
Well,
works.
I got, I go right to the head of the line,
Yeah. So now you're looking at this weekend having a game, and I was going by the fact it used to be Friday and Saturdays, but now Ohio's trying to keep every playoff game on Friday until they get to the final weekend.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I know one of the reasons why they're doing that, but still, you're going to be Friday night somewhere, and I know you're not allowed to tell how many weeks you're into this, but you're going to be running college out of the college season, and basketball starting at college and high school, and they're still playing football. So, what's your trick? What's some of the things you do to keep your mind clear and into the rules of one level and the other level, the high school, the college, and then go basketball, football.
Yeah, absolutely. So two bags. I used to have just one bag, honestly. So I mean that's that that is honestly, it sounds just kind of funny or whatever, but it really keeps you
Yeah.
in that mindset. I used to use one bag, and I would change over, and you would have half your stuff here and half, and then you would take it out and you put in here or whatever. Two bags.
I hate to interrupt, but I just noticed that I don't have but 1% on my battery left, so I might be going before you know what's going to happen.
No,
I
no,
thought I
no,
was
no,
charged.
no. Oh, I mean, you're going to leave the broadcast.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
I thought you were talking about something else.
no,
You're going to be leaving.
I'm at 1% right now, and it's about probably ready to go off. I don't know how much longer are you going to go. Maybe I can charge it for a little bit and get back on.
Say goodbye. No, not that way either.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Well, it's great.
No,
No, I didn't know.
Okay,
I'll say goodbye, but how much longer is this? Because I can shut her down.
All right, buddy.
Sideways.
See you, Jimmy.
So, if he would have used two bags, he probably would have never forgot his shoes.
The band shoes. That's a great story.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's right here, baby.
That's a great story. That's a great story.
The fact that it happened 26 years apart or whatever, the first time and the second time, and that's the really funny part of mine. Like, hey, you're not blaming me this time, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. But to go back to it, yeah, like I said, two bags. I mean, it keeps you in that. It keeps you in the same mind frame. You have all your stuff in one bag. You're not transporting it, so you keep the same routine each week. For college and then high school. For college, we usually meet virtually on a Thursday night call. So that stays consistent. That keeps us in the rules. Stays consistent throughout the whole football season. Basketball. Like I said, you are keeping a couple sets of rule books, but at the same time too, what I do is I look at them in different parts of the day. Football is usually early morning. I at least am preparing for about a half hour early morning. Basketball, I got in the routine of doing like a mid-afternoon, something like that. So mix them up a little bit, and then depending on high school football, high school football, college football, I'll still keep them relatively around the same times, but I will be able to I'll make sure to devote pretty much the same amount of time to each one, just to kind of keep sharp. But I really think that it's routine. I mean, on Fridays, that's the one day on Fridays. I have a game on Friday for college football high school football that I'm devoting just to the high school football game that I'm going to be doing. Saturday college football, I'm not talking about anything high school related. Once I get up Saturday morning, it's all college football stuff. Throughout the weeks, like I said, just break it up a little bit. So I don't know. I guess you're probably looking at me and saying, "Wow, that doesn't make hardly any sense." What you just said. There's a method to the madness. Everyone's a little bit different. There is absolutely crossover. There absolutely is. But I hate to say it, but it's just muscle memory. In a high school game, muscle memory comes back. You're doing this. In a college game, muscle memory comes back. You're doing this. And I guess until you kind of have experienced it, it might sound confusing, but muscle memory just really takes over as well too. So
I know Don experienced that in college ball, and I actually experienced it too when I worked in the semi-pro Continental Basketball Association, where their rule book is like 3 times as thick as ours. And, you know, and the things that you would just naturally call out of instinct, they look at you like, what the hell's wrong with you? That's not a foul, you know? And it takes it. You're right. It's like, until you do it a few times, it's tough. It's because you have a habit, you know, and muscle memory. You're exactly right.
I found out the 10 years I worked college ball, I worked for Diane, and I got way better because of the people that I officiated with, and our pregame talks, discussions, and stuff, and I ended up putting like a 8-page, 9-page pregame for college. I put it all in enclosed sleeves and had it in a 3-ring binder. But then I also took notes and stuff from high school camp, and I put together a pregame same way in the same binder, but you turn it to the backside, open the opposite way, and we always had a good pregame for college game. I mean, that's absolutely expected. In high school games, didn't happen as much, and a good story about how a good pregame can get you through a ball game that you're worried about. And we're a postseason game, and Democrats never put in for hardly any postseason stuff and whatnot. And one year at the point in the basketball season when you get your assignments, I see Denny's name on a contract with me at a game at Lexington High School. And so I called him up that night, and I said, "Hey, buddy, have you checked your mail yet?" I said, and he goes, "Well, no, what?" I said, "Well, get it. Your name's on a basketball contract with me." He goes, "I don't work any postseason." I said, "I need you. Take a look at who our partner is." And this was when 3-man was probably about 4 years in, and we still had some old timers that never did any work about 3-man to learn how to do it. And I'd seen this guy. He still ran all over the court. He was hyper as could be. And I said, "Danny, I need you to roll with me because we're going to do the most complete pregame in high school basketball with this guy before the game, so he knows where we expect him and he can expect us." He goes, "I'll do it." He said, "I'll send it back. Don't worry." And so we did it, and we had a really nice game. And this guy, you know, he's one of those guys that runs way beyond where he should be. He's all over the court. Not that naive. He was pretty good. And you know, the pregame is something. As far as us, we talked about the previous week's game in the car going and things like that. But boy, at college level, you get the same thing. You know, Russ Pitts. If you ever heard one of his, man, it's even more exciting in the college ranks when we'd go somewhere. And at Mark Heyman's last year, I worked a game with him in the sectional final. I said, "All these years, Mark, we finally get to work one together." And he goes, "Yeah." He said, "Hey, yep, it's you know just one of." Finally, it happened. You know, we got a sign together. I said, "Well, your last one, buddy. You're tossing. You do the pregame." He goes, "No way. I've heard from all kinds of people about Don Nardeckia's pregame." He said, "It might be my last season, but I want to hear it." So we went that way with it. So that's a big thing. It's just, you know, we had a page of differences from the women's and the high school rules. And actually, women's college basketball is much closer to the high school basketball rules than the men's is. And so the change wasn't as big as what you see during the men's college game. But we had a page that went through those, and I always, you know, go into the college game. If I got there first, I always glanced through those. So I got here. If I had an afternoon college game and an evening high school game, I'd turn the page basically and look at it backwards to to make sure my mind was on the right path.
So go ahead.
With the overlap of these games, your signers, how do you get them to work together, or what do they say, or how? Obviously, you're generally the college takes priority, but
Sure.
there were times when I had a college an NAIA game, and they asked. They said, "Would Mac Morrison let you out of your whatever it was to do the NAIA game?" And so I called him, and I asked him. I said, "I've signed a contract with you, and that's good. I have an offer for this. What's your thing?" He says, "Well, don't let those. I don't want those people getting mad at you for turning down the game. So I'm fine. I'll get somebody else to the high school game, and you get that experience." So
Yeah.
if you're upfront with them, they realize it, and don't try to BS them about a game. If I'd go to the college guys first for Saturday, and if somebody would call me up 2 years ahead of time for high school, I say, "Listen, here's the deal. Um, I get off of the college game almost every Saturday because with as many teams at all levels of play, they really need everybody on board. And so, I'd be glad to take your game, but what would happen is, with the understanding that if I get a game that day, that you'll take it back." I said, "But if you want to pass on that so that you don't get stuck with that, I understand. That's I'll do it, and I'll be straight with you. But I don't want to. I don't want to be the guy that starts calling up 2 weeks in advance and say, 'Hey, I got a college game I can take.' I didn't do that. I said, if I take it up front, that's it." So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think from a college basketball standpoint, I mean, the regular season there's crossover, to where you're taking a college basketball game and over a high school basketball game. Those are pretty easy. Those are pretty easy to fill and pretty easy to have somebody have an assigner fill that for you. You're just up front with them right away and let them know what you're doing. I've never for basketball I've never had a high school tournament game that I've had knock on wood, high school tournament game that I had to give up for a college basketball game. Now football, there's been more crossover during the tournament time for me to where I've had to give up a high school playoff game before. There was one year that I was supposed to go all the way to state for high school, and our assigner had reached out to all of us and said, for college, I said, "I don't care, I just want to ask you, are you okay with getting a college playoff game, or do you want to just keep all your high school playoff games?" I remember one year, I think it might have been my first year that I ever did state football, or second time, or I don't remember. I told him, I said, I would rather go all the way to the state and high school playoffs and give up a college postseason game. I remember I did that one time. And then funny story. One time I did a college postseason game at noon, and I did a high school playoff game at night. Craziest day ever. I I had a high school playoff game at Finley at 7 o'clock, and I received a postseason college game at Mount Union at noon.
Ooh.
So I reached out to Danny Morris and I said, "Hey, what do I do here? Do I give up this high school playoff game?" And he goes, "You think you can make it?" I said, "Yeah, probably." I said, unless it's a blizzard or a snowstorm." He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Let's just keep this between me and you." He goes, Don't let either person know that you're doing the other." And he goes, "You have time in between. You can make it to the high school game." Well, we wound up having a blizzard that started about 3 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock. I barely made it to Long story short, I barely made it to Finley on time. I think I made it about half hour 40 before the game starts. And for football, high school, you're supposed to be there an hour and a half beforehand. Okay, so I didn't make that window. I did make it before the game, so I wasn't late for the game. But there actually were a few people that had, I don't know if they had a vested interest in both games, that saw me at both games, what I was doing. And I said, yeah, that was me on both games. I said, I did by the guy in charge, and he gave me the okay. He just like, keep it to yourself. So I actually did do one in the same year, and that was just a funny day. Made it to both, and it was interesting, but I wouldn't advise doing that. But yeah, I guess that's kind of how I, juggle some of those.
You got to know who you're working for, what leagues do what, and when it comes playoff time.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Well, we're getting to about the end here. So we appreciate you coming. We definitely love all your insight and how you've grown. But we're going to give you the chance of telling us your funniest story on the way out. So you can use basketball, you can use football, the funniest thing that you've ever been involved in.
Wow. Oh, there's a lot.
Okay,
well, I got a story. I do. Yeah, I got a story. It's a basketball story. It's a high school basketball story. And it was I won't say the names of any schools in here. And
protects the innocent.
Yep. I'll tell you the officials that I was working with though. So I had a girls game on a Thursday night, varsity girls game. I had let me think what I did. No, sorry. I had a boys game on a Thursday night, and then I had a girls game on a Friday night, and then I had a boys game again on a Saturday night. Same school, 3 nights in a row, boys, girls, boys. Okay? Would not advise doing that,
Lordy.
Whatever. So first night, so we had a boys game, pretty intense boys game. I was working with Greg Bartimus and Jeff Todd. You guys know them very, very well.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was a battle of the two best teams. It was beginning of February, and you know how beginning of February is. At the end of the season, teams they've either been going on a stretch for a really long time. They're getting ready for the postseason. That's when stuff can happen. That's usually when stuff can happen. So this team, it was the second time they were meeting and everything, and it wound up getting towards like the end of the game to where the one team realized that they were going to lose the game, and they probably would have then got second place in their conference or whatever. So I had a call. I don't even remember what the call was. The coach didn't like it. It was about 2.5 minutes left. Game was kind of in hand. The outcome was inevitable. And coach is getting on me. He's harping on me pretty hard. Game ends. We're running off. That's the time when you run off as fast as you can and you get out of there. Really narrow gym. It's an old gym. They don't use the gym anymore. Really narrow gym. You barely can get to the door. You barely can get to the doorway. And it's very, very narrow. Then you go down the steps, and the locker rooms we're downstairs. Well, I'm on the far end, and game ends. Jeff and Greg beat me there before I get there, and I'm trying to get there. All of a sudden, the losing coach, who's still mad about a call, steps right in front of me, would not let me pass. And in this gym, you can't get around the guy. I'm like, put my hand out, coach, let's move on. I need to get past. He did not let me pass him. So I had to tee up the coach with no time on the clock. And it was funny because I yelled to Greg. And Greg was like, I was like, hey, Greg, I have a technical foul. So he yells down to Jeff, which is probably in the locker room changing at the time. So I go back to the table, I report it, And then, the coach's mouth is dropped. Like, you can actually do that. Come back and go in the locker room. And I'm like, oh, man, guys, you see what happened? We're talking about it. I said, they're like, yeah, good thing we don't have to come back here in a while. I was like, I have them Saturday night, and I have them tomorrow night. And they're like, ooh, you should email the assigner and ask them. And I was kind of younger at the time, first couple of years in varsity. And I said to myself, I don't really want to do that. Yeah, you better do it. So I emailed him. Signer, of course, at the time, probably like, we can't find anybody else. Let's just do it. So he goes, just do it. You'll be all right. I'm like, oh, okay. So I have the girls' game. And the next night, they find out what the boys who are there watching the girls find out my name. And they're chanting my name during the game. So they're like, Ryan. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy, So then it comes to the boys' game, and luckily, they were playing a team that they just were a lot better than. So it wasn't going to be a game. They were going to smoke the team. Did not have an ounce of problems in that Saturday night game. And actually, the coach, after the game was over, came down to the locker room and actually apologized for his actions on Thursday night. We had a good little chuckle and laugh about it. And it was just a funny, interesting events that happened, during the basketball season, in the beginning of February. So.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's they lose it once in a while. We're the ones who got to keep our cool, and I think they. I was doing with Jimmy. I wish he was still on because this was a good one too. Where it was a real close ball game, and it was coming down the stretch, and he was under the basket, and the visiting team, I think it was Olmsted Falls, the guy was camping in there, and Jimmy yelled 3 times, "Get out of paint! Get out of paint! Get out of paint!" And then he called 3 seconds, and the coach went ballistic. And Dan Ross, who used to be the commissioner of the OHSAA, he was the superintendent at Avon at the time. He was sitting on the baseline, and Jim goes, "Did you hear me?" And she said, "Yeah, I heard you. How could you not have?" Well, we're in the locker room, and about 10 minutes after the game, the coach walked through, and at the glass, we were in the teacher's office, and he's waving to us, and he's like, "Hey, can I come in?" So we let him in. He goes, "Hey guys, especially to Jim, he says, I apologize." I said, I did hear that you yelled 3 times, and my wife said, "You owe that guy an apology for yelling like that." So he talked to his wife out in the lobby, or after the game in the gym. She sent him in to apologize.
Oh, nice.
Well, and then Don and I and Jim had a team in the Toledo area. Unbeknownst to the coach, we actually had them like 2 weeks apart.
Mm.
And I was having an issue with his point guard with being a little lippy, and I basically threatened him to knock it off or he was leaving the game. And as we were leaving that night, he stopped Don, and he was telling Don how unapproachable I was, and and stuff. And of course, that's still the joke, I'm unapproachable. And 2 weeks later, we had him again, but he wasn't at home; he was away. And he was probably our best friend, I think. I mean, he was like glad to see me and everything. I'm like, well, apparently I'm not so unapproachable.
Yeah,
you got so much better in 2 weeks.
I know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But yeah. It's funny. How you react is the key to everything. We always say that. We actually got to the point later on in our careers where we did the captain's meeting, and we go to the coaches. Well, our statements were always the same. Hey, good luck tonight, coach. Team's properly equipped. You got anything you need to talk to us about? We'll answer any question you have. Statements, however, are going to be handled completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So, and off we went. And, I think that sets the tone of the game a lot. What you do in the first quarter, it's going to set the tone for all the quarters. And I don't care if you're talking football, basketball, whatever. If you don't catch that crap early, it escalates every time, every time. And I've seen it on TV. I've seen it in person, working for Buckeye Cable Sports Network. Yeah, I mean, that's the best advice I can tell any young official. If you're going to call it early and keep calling it.
Yep.
And don't wait.
Yep.
And that's a great point, Rick. And that's how you can tell, veteran officials versus newer officials, even at any level. I mean, I think you talked about it, earlier, Don, how sticks, guys like that might just say, I'm going to do junior high. Even at any level, a veteran official is going to call the hard stuff early so that it sets the whole tone for the whole entire game. A lot of times, and like I said, I think we're all, we've all done this, especially younger in our career. We're like, we don't want to disrupt this game. We don't want to disrupt the game, and we you want to get a good flow. But at the same time too, if you're getting to a frenetic pace, it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse, right?
Well, I would encourage our younger officials during the summer girls leagues, or when we had our shootouts here. He said, "Hey, listen, I want you to officiate the game like this was December, January. You want you to throw the ball 20 feet to get it to a guy throwing it in so they can get maximum shots, because that's no good for their game. They're out of control. It's our job to control this and allow them to learn, and the coach to really get a good look at what its kids can do. And that's, a lot of those AAU games are out of control offensively. All you can do is slow it down and let them get their feet on the ground properly.
Well, and I think the other thing that we always did that I don't see hardly anymore is officials talking to the players. You can talk them out of 90% of the stuff. If you can just talk to them, they'll keep moving because they know you're watching. Yeah. Same with football. I mean, there's little things you can say out there that nobody knows but us and them that, hey,
that third man in basketball, you're underneath the basket. It's so easy. Just pull your whistle and say 3-4 words to them about what's going on, or, stop the holding, quit your pushing, get out of the key, put it right back in. And
just keep
you
rolling.
can do that in a 2-man game. You have to talk to them during a free throw or during a dead ball. I mean, you can move it. It's a lot easier.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, definitely building rapport during the game, because I mean, when something happens, the coaches, basketball, whatever. Did you do it? And he's not always gonna, but if you're building a little bit of rapport with that player, yeah, man, coach, I did, or whatever. If you're not building an ally out there, you got no chance. And I'm not saying,
No. My favorite was, I'd see a kid like grab a shirt or, do that little pinch move or something, I'd be like, and they'd be like, oh, I'd be like, look, I invented that. So don't even go back to this. I invented that little grab on, or in football, where they get that little turn with the grab, You're like, hey, my coach taught me to do that way back in, when they had black and white film. So don't even go there, bro. So we've been doing this a long time. This ain't new.
Yeah, absolutely.
They look at you like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, well, you probably got something tonight. You got a meeting or anything tonight that you have to get to do with officiating, or is just real?
Not officiating. My brother's got a Bible study on Tuesday nights. Then I go to. But yeah, last night was our first basketball meeting for the association. So yep, we started off last night. Had really really good attendance. I mean, you understand how it goes with being in an association. Those first couple meetings, there's a lot of people.
And the house is full.
House was full last night.
Well, that's good. Well, again, Ryan, thanks again for joining us. We've had a great talk. I hope you can come back and see us again during basketball season. We're going to have a few people on. Denny Foltz and his son's coming, and we're going to get Steve Gray on here, which could be absolutely hilarious.
We're looking at getting somebody that was before maybe when you were in high school, Andra Bell, a former girls basketball coach at Upper Sandusky had really good teams, a lot of them down there. She was fiery on the court. She'd be really fired up at us during a game, and we'd go down there a week later for a guys' game, and she'd talk to us. She'd sit at midcourt, and in the pregame, she'd talk to us like we'd been best friends. I mean,
That's how it usually goes.
she was a real character. She's a really good coach. She's still living down in the Upper Sandusky area. So we had a common friend, a preacher, wanting to know if she'd talk to us in the future. She said absolutely. So I've got her number, and she's coming up. Probably have she and Steve Gray and Dave Street sometime in January, early February.
All right, guys. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity, guys, and
Hey,
wish you
Ryan.
guys well. Appreciate it.
I hope to see you
Ryan,
again
have a
this
great
winter.
season.
Sounds good. Okay. Thanks, gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.